Hi everyone, I'm Sleepless Scientist. Tonight we're lying in the dark with something we never really see, but always feel. It moves like a whisper, unstoppable, always forward. And somehow it shapes every moment of your life even while you're asleep. It's not a monster. It's not a ghost. It's just time. You close your eyes, and there it is, quietly pulling you along like a river you didn't ask to float in. The clock ticks, the air hums, your breath enters and then it leaves, always in that order, never the other way around. But why? Why does time move forward? Why not backward? Why not sideways? I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you. Let me know in the comments below. I'm always curious where these quiet little science stories are drifting to and if this video helped you while you were there. Now relax, take a deep breath, and join me gently on this evening's journey. The clock on your wall ticks like it's got something to prove. It never looks back, never pauses, never rewinds. Just a smug little second hand doing laps forever. You lie there watching the digital glow of the numbers change. Hey. Always one more than the last, never one less. You've never seen a moment repeat. You've never watched your coffee steam unrise out of the cup. You've never gasped in reverse, heard laughter shrink back into silence, or felt your feet dry while stepping out of a puddle. So you assume time just flows. But why, that question has haunted thinkers for thousands of years. And while physics has given us equations, beautiful, elegant ones, none of them explain why time seems to move in one direction only. The math weirdly works the same going forward or backward. Yes, if you look at the fundamental laws of physics, they don't prefer one direction of time over the other. But your life, your experience, utterly one way. You wake up. You grow older. You never grow younger. You eat the sandwich. You don't uneat it. Unless something's really wrong. Let's not go there. Scientists call this the arrow of time, a poetic name for the fact that time seems to point somewhere, always forward. Imagine you film yourself dropping a mug on the floor. It shatters. Play that video backward, and your brain immediately flags it. Wrong. Because mugs don't unshatter. That's your intuition bumping into the arrow of time. Here's your major scientific fact. The laws of physics are time-symmetric, but the second law of thermodynamics isn't. That law says that in any closed system, entropy or disorder tends to increase. And it's this law, more than any other, that might give time its direction. Entropy is like cosmic laziness. It's the reason your room gets messy if you stop cleaning it. It's the reason you can scramble an egg, but not unscramble one. It's the reason the universe looks more chaotic now than it did at the beginning. The arrow of time points in the direction of increasing entropy. And since entropy increases, time flows. Simple, right? Except, no. Here's your odd fact of the night. There's a species of jellyfish, Turritopsis dohrnii, that appears to reverse its life cycle when stressed, going from adult back to immature form, potentially indefinitely. It's the biological equivalent of rewinding the tape. So, sure, mugs don't unshatter. But jellyfish, they kind of do. Still, you can't help feeling the pull of time. Not just in your memories, but in your bones. Even your sleep follows time's rhythm. Cycles of REM and deep sleep. Hormone release. Melatonin waves that crest and fall like a sea you can't see. You don't choose time. You obey it. It marks everything, your laughter, your loss, your longing. But here's where it gets weird. Scientists still debate whether the arrow of time is truly fundamental or just a consequence of how we observe the universe. Some even argue that time doesn't flow at all. It's just our perception stitching moments together like film frames. Maybe the past and future already exist. Maybe you're just moving through them, like walking through rooms in a house you didn't build. But that's for later. For now, you're lying there half asleep, feeling time pull you gently forward, into the next minute, into the next dream, into the next breath. No sound, no glow, no warning. Just the clock still ticking. You drop the mug. Not literally tonight, but in your mind. It hits the tile floor, a beautiful ceramic arc, and shatters. There's something final about that sound. Irreversible. You can imagine it perfectly, even without moving. And your brain knows one thing for sure: that mug will never put itself back together. Why you've seen enough movies in reverse to know it looks wrong. You've never seen chaos collapse back into order without effort. And that sense that broken things stay broken isn't just psychological, it's physical. This is where time begins to show its hand. Not with ticking clocks, but with falling mugs. Here's the heart of it. Entropy is disorder. More precisely, it's the number of ways a system can arrange itself without you noticing anything has changed. A clean bedroom, one arrangement. A messy one, a billion. Which one is more likely, exactly? So when a mug shatters, it's not just breaking, it's increasing entropy. It's moving toward a state where there are more ways to be a mess than a mug. This is your major scientific fact. The second law of thermodynamics says that entropy tends to increase in a closed system. That law gives us the only true arrow in physics, a one-way street toward more disorder. And that's why the mug doesn't reassemble. Not because it's morally wrong, but because the math says it's vastly improbable. You're not just watching a mug break. You're watching time flow. Now maybe you roll over, fluff your pillow, try to ignore the implications of a universe destined for disorder. But still, it tickles the back of your brain. Why does this law of all the laws care about direction? Newton's laws don't. Maxwell's equations don't. Even quantum mechanics, as weird as it is, works the same forward or backward in time. But entropy keeps score. It's like the universe keeps a tally of chaos, and that tally never goes down. Here's a weird one. Odd fact time: the shattering of a mug and the melting of an ice cube are governed by the same principle. You can watch an ice cube melt. But watching one unmelt, that's basically watching entropy run in reverse, which again is possible in equations, but not in kitchens. There's something poetic about that. You live in a universe that remembers brokenness. You carry it in your stories too. It's why fairy tales rarely end with everything exactly the way it began. Once the glass slipper fits, the spell breaks. Once the mug shatters, the story moves on. That's entropy whispering in your mythologies. Still, the fact that your experience of time aligns with this law raises uncomfortable questions. Like, what if time didn't flow at all? What if your sense of time moving forward is just you watching entropy go up? In that case, time is just the scoreboard. You're not traveling through time, you're just watching the universe get messier. And here's where it gets juicy. Scientists still debate whether entropy causes the flow of time or merely marks it. Some think entropy is just a consequence of initial conditions. Others believe it is time's engine. Nobody's sure. But what they agree on is this: if the universe began in a state of incredibly low entropy, then everything since has been one long slide into disorder. And that's where time points. From simplicity to complexity. From order to chaos, from mug to pieces. You snuggle deeper into your sheets. Maybe you're like the mug, just a little further along the entropy road than you were yesterday. And yeah, maybe that's a little heavy, but it's also kind of beautiful. You are a moment in this unraveling, a perfect combination of molecules stacked in temporary order, defying entropy just long enough to be you. Your body warms the bed, your heartbeat slows, and all around you time marches forward as things fall apart. And maybe you're okay with that, because if things never broke, they'd never change. And if nothing changed, there would be no stories, no before, no after, no you, just stillness. So you take comfort in the mug's journey, because it means time is moving, and where time moves, dreams follow. You're lying there now, tucked in your body still, but your thoughts are drifting. They drift like smoke through a memory, and somewhere in the distance you hear laughter. Maybe from 10 years ago, maybe from last summer, maybe from a place that never quite existed. Because memory's weird like that. And suddenly you realize your mind doesn't experience time like the world does. It hops, skips, jumps backward, rewinds conversations, replays heartbreaks, and fantasizes about futures that haven't even auditioned yet. It can be tomorrow one moment and middle school the next. So, which direction is time actually going? You remember that mug, still broken, still scattered. But your brain, it keeps trying to glue things together, thoughts, stories, regrets, dreams. And that brings us here to something both deeply human and deeply bizarre. Your brain dreams of sex a lot, especially during sleep, and often without your permission. Now, before we pretend it's a you problem, let's back up. Major scientific fact: during REM sleep, your brain is just as active, sometimes more than when you're awake. It pulls images from memory, imagination, and emotion, blending them into storylines that often include emotional intensity. And yes, sometimes that includes arousal or erotic themes. But it's not always logical. You could be dreaming about a talking jelly bean on a bicycle, and somehow the scene is charged with sexual tension. Because your dreaming brain isn't just playing a movie. It's interpreting feelings without your frontal lobe, the rational part, to filter it all. That's like leaving a toddler in charge of directing a soap opera. Your subconscious digs up pieces of emotional sediment, stress, desire, confusion, and builds a storyline that barely holds together. Sometimes that involves sex. Sometimes it involves algebra exams. And sometimes both, which, good luck explaining. Here's your odd fact. A 2007 study found that about 8% of dreams in young adults are explicitly sexual. But these dreams don't always reflect waking desires. In fact, people often dream about partners they're not attracted to, or situations they'd never entertain while awake. Your brain's weird, and its job during REM is to process emotional memory. And guess what's loaded with emotional charge? Desire, shame, love, fear, longing. So while the mug broke because of entropy, your brain keeps building stories around what the broken pieces mean. This matters, because time, real time, marches forward relentlessly. But the mind time travels every night. And this kind of mental time travel might be the key to why you feel time moves forward at all. Imagine you didn't have memory. Would time feel like it's going anywhere? Would the arrow still exist? Or would it all blur into one long moment? Some scientists argue that time's forward flow is something your brain constructs, not something the universe demands. You remember past events. You anticipate future ones. But right now, your brain is just guessing. And dreams are your brain rehearsing those guesses. Even the weird, sexy ones. And here's the kicker: scientists still debate whether dreams serve a real evolutionary function or are just random neural fireworks. Some theories say they help consolidate memory. Others argue they simulate threats. Still others claim they're just noise. But there's growing evidence that erotic dreams, like all dreams, are attempts by the brain to model reality, emotion, and possibility. They're time experiments, emotional time machines. And every night you go inside one. So when you wake up and remember that dream, you didn't just experience desire. You experienced time, bent, looped, warped around memory and imagination. And even though it doesn't make linear sense, it feels real. The emotions feel real. The arousal feels real. The confusion feels very real. Because in dreams, past and future are neighbors. They share a fence, they borrow sugar from each other. And the arrow of time, it's spinning in circles. But somehow you emerge each morning with a new stitch in your timeline. Even if it's messy. Even if it's embarrassing. Even if you dreamed about kissing a cartoon character shaped like a croissant. You smile. Because the brain is weird, and time is weirder. But dreaming is how you carry pieces of the past into the possibility of who you might become. And maybe that's enough. You're floating again. Not in water this time, but in the sticky syrup of a half-forgotten dream. You stir your body still, your brain fogged, and there's that subtle awareness. The sheets feel warmer than they should. You shift your hips. Your face burns even though no one saw anything. It happened again. You didn't ask for it. But your body decided to throw a party while you weren't awake to RSVP. Welcome to the phenomenon scientists affectionately refer to as sleep-related erections, or when things go a little further, nocturnal emissions. That's right, wet dreams. You didn't try to have one. You didn't consciously choose a scene or a script. Your body took over, and in the silent hours of the night, something primal said, "Now's the time." And the question floats in the post-dream mist. Why? Here's your major scientific fact. During REM sleep, the stage of sleep most associated with vivid dreaming, the body goes through cyclical periods of genital arousal regardless of the dream content. For people assigned male at birth, this often means multiple erections throughout the night. For those assigned female, it means increased vaginal blood flow and clitoral engorgement. It's not always erotic. It's not always conscious. It just happens. You are in the most literal sense dreaming yourself into physical sensation. You roll to your side and try not to overthink it. But here's the thing, your body isn't just acting out a fantasy. It's running a test. Some scientists think these nighttime responses serve a maintenance function. Think of it as a systems check. Like the body rebooting the hardware, making sure all cables are plugged in. Because if you don't use a system regularly, it can degrade. Yes, even that system. So the theory goes, your body initiates these dreamy rehearsals to ensure blood vessels, nerve pathways, and reflexes stay in working order. Like a software update for your groin. But you're not exactly sitting at a control panel directing the show. You're unconscious. And yet part of you is very awake. Which brings us to the weird part. Odd fact of the night, studies have shown that even babies in utero experience REM sleep erections. That's right before a baby takes its first breath, before it knows anything about the world, its body is already testing the machinery. No shame, no dream journal. Just a primal rhythm coded into biology. And if you're wondering whether dreams cause the arousal or arousal causes the dream, guess what? Scientists still debate that. Is it the spicy dream that kicks off the physiological response? Or does the body activate first, and the brain builds a sexy scene around the signal? The truth is, no one knows. Some studies suggest the two can occur independently. You could be dreaming about taxes, but your body's down to clown anyway. We're walking chaos. Well, sleeping chaos. But it raises a deeper, stranger point. What if part of your experience of time, especially during dreams, is not just psychological, but physiological? What if your sense of a beginning, middle, and end in a dream is shaped by your body's internal cues? You dream of holding hands. Your breath deepens. Your heart rate shifts. And then it happens. A climax in both narrative and body. And you wake up just after the final page. Coincidence, maybe. But maybe your body is helping your brain write time. Not the cold, clinical kind, not seconds or minutes, but felt time. The kind of time that arcs, rises, breaks like a wave, like a story, like a kiss you didn't ask for, but somehow needed. So tonight, as you lie back and feel your body recalibrating itself without your permission, you might just accept that part of being human is being a mystery to yourself. And wet dreams, they're not glitches. They're part of the software. Embarrassing sometimes, natural always, and deeply tied to the way your body and mind track time in the dark. You've stopped checking the clock. There's no point anymore. The world outside your eyelids has gone fuzzy, and your breath is soft, now slow-patterned, timed with some ancient metronome inside your chest. But inside you, there's a whole orchestra playing. A hormonal symphony, quiet but precise, tuning itself to a rhythm older than language. You're not dreaming about anything in particular, but your brain is soaked in chemicals. Dopamine, serotonin, melatonin, oxytocin. Some dancing gently, others spiking like cymbals in the dark. And conducting it all, your endocrine system. Major scientific fact. Coming in strong. Wet dreams and sexual arousal during sleep are tightly connected to hormone cycles, particularly testosterone, which peaks in the early morning, and dopamine, which floods the brain during REM sleep. These two chemicals work like co-writers, shaping both mood and desire. Think of dopamine as the yes please neurotransmitter. It's involved in motivation, reward, and pleasure. And REM sleep. It's when dopamine steps out of its backstage dressing room and grabs the mic. Now combine that with testosterone whispering from the wings, and suddenly your dreams have a soundtrack and a storyline, even if the dialogue makes no sense. Now here's your odd fact. Dolphins also experience REM sleep, but only in one hemisphere of the brain at a time. So technically, half their brain is dreaming, while the other half stays awake. Talk about multitasking. Scientists haven't confirmed whether they dream of romance, but let's be honest, dolphins are weirdly sensual animals. Anyway, back to you. You lie still, but inside your brain is pulling levers like a sleep-deprived DJ, mixing tracks of memory, imagination, and hormones into a remix you didn't know you needed. And sometimes the track is a slow burn. Sometimes it's all rhythm. Sometimes it ends with a silent crescendo, your body releasing tension it never meant to build. You didn't decide that. Your hormones did. They're the artists. You're the gallery. And while you might wake up with questions, your body doesn't think in words. It thinks in cycles. Peaks, drops, rises. That's why time in sleep feels so strange. Because sleep time isn't clock time. In REM sleep, minutes stretch, scenes loop. You could dream an entire love affair in the time it takes your alarm to beep once. Hormones don't wear watches. They follow the tide. And that tide is pulled by everything. Your circadian rhythm, your stress levels, even what you had for dinner. Have you ever tried cheese before bed? Some dreams get weird fast. Scientists still debate the exact reason dreams get more vivid toward morning. Some say it's the REM stages lengthening as you near waking. Others think it's the hormone balance shifting, more dopamine, less melatonin, more vivid narrative flow. Either way, you're not the one steering this ship. And that's okay, because this hormonal storm, it's part of how your body keeps time, not the calendar kind, not the meeting at 10 a.m. kind, but internal time, biological time, desire time, time that flows like a river made of emotion. So when your body stirs in the dark, when your mind follows a dream down a sensual hallway, it's not weakness, it's chemistry, it's rhythm. It's your body speaking a language your conscious self forgot how to hear. And yes, sometimes it leaves a mess. But it also leaves a question: who's in charge down there? And maybe the answer is, you are. Just not the you that pays taxes. The older you, the deeper you, the one that remembers how to follow the music without needing a map. So now as you roll back into your pillow, the hormones still doing their slow, ancient work, you let them. You don't need to control the orchestra. Just listen. Because this isn't just a concert. It's a clock. And it's always on time. The room is dark and the air still, but there's a quiet truth hovering in the background. Women dream wet, too. And maybe you never thought about that. Maybe you assumed this whole nocturnal theater of sticky sheets and unexpected plot twists was an exclusively male phenomenon. But tonight we're going deeper. Because the story of wet dreams doesn't belong to one gender. It belongs to the body. And bodies, regardless of shape, speak in dreams. Let's start with your major scientific fact. People assigned female at birth also experience sleep-related genital arousal during REM cycles, often accompanied by erotic dreams and even nocturnal orgasms. It's just talked about less, a lot less. Why? Because for centuries, women's desire was either denied, demonized, or dismissed as hysteria. A diagnosis, by the way, that once included too much reading or owning a cat. But the body. The body never got that memo. During REM sleep, blood flow increases to the pelvic region. The clitoris becomes engorged, the vagina lubricates, and muscles may contract rhythmically. And no, it doesn't always follow a dream plot. Sometimes it just happens. Here's your odd fact. In a 1986 study, researchers found that nearly 40% of women reported having orgasms during sleep by the age of 45. And some said those dreamgasms were even more intense than the waking kind. Why? Possibly because your brain isn't distracted by insecurity, performance, anxiety, or trying to remember if you locked the front door. Dreams don't come with baggage fees. In the sleeping mind, sensation isn't filtered. You don't second-guess. You don't compare. You experience. And sometimes the dream doesn't even feature a partner. It's just sensation. Rising, peaking, fading like a firework in reverse. So why haven't we talked about this more? Well, because society, and shame, and silence. But scientists still debate just how common these experiences are, because most studies on dreams and sexual arousal have historically focused on men. The data on women is patchy, underfunded, and decades behind. But the truth is, female bodies are just as responsive, just as rhythmic, and just as tuned in to sleep's strange symphony as male bodies. And maybe tonight, that feels like a quiet rebellion. The idea that desire doesn't need permission. That it lives in the bones, the blood, the breath. Even in dreams, especially in dreams. You shift under the covers, your mind foggy but curious. You think of the times you woke up flushed, confused, maybe even a little embarrassed. And now you wonder, was that shame really yours? Or did you inherit it because the body isn't ashamed? It pulses, it stirs, it hums with electric longing, whether you're conscious of it or not. And in sleep, where control fades and stories flow freely, sometimes desire gets to lead. Not because it's naughty, but because it's natural. Just like REM, just like dreaming, just like time moving forward through the space between breaths. And if you've never had a dream like that, that's okay. Not everyone remembers. Not every dream ends with fireworks. Sometimes it's a flicker, a gentle glow, a pulse behind the eyelids, and a knowing that your body is still speaking even when you aren't listening. So tonight, as the orchestra of hormones plays softly through your bloodstream, you let go of the idea that desire needs to be loud or cinematic or explained. Sometimes it just is. Like the moon, like the tide, like the dream you only half remember but never forget how it made you feel. You're floating again, not through space this time, but through memory. Not one memory in particular, but a collage. A flicker of that high school crush. A slow-motion moment from a movie. A strange smell that turns into someone's hands. All stitched together like your brain's making a quilt out of blushes and goosebumps. And suddenly, you're in it. A dream where everything feels intimate, but nothing makes sense. Your ex is there, but they have your dentist's voice. And you're on a boat, but it's your childhood bedroom. What is going on, Welcome to the Dream Blender. Your brain has just turned the erotic confusion dial up to 11, and surprisingly, that confusion, it's useful. Let's start with the major scientific fact. Dreams, especially erotic ones, are generated largely from the limbic system, the emotional core of the brain. This includes the amygdala, which processes emotion, and the hippocampus, which handles memory. In REM sleep, this system goes into overdrive, while the prefrontal cortex, your rational voice of reason, goes offline. So basically, the security guard has left the building, and the emotional DJs have taken over. No wonder everything feels vivid, intense, and kind of unhinged. You might dream about making out with your boss, or a celebrity, or someone you haven't spoken to in 12 years and never had feelings for. But in that moment, it feels real, familiar, charged. Your brain isn't trying to embarrass you. It's trying to process something. Desire, sure, but maybe also vulnerability, longing, power, loss. Which leads us to your odd fact. People who are in long-term monogamous relationships often report having erotic dreams about strangers or even people they don't find attractive at all. It's not betrayal. It's brain maintenance. Because your dreams aren't a wish list. They're a testing ground. You try on feelings, scenarios, emotional shapes, and sometimes those shapes include sex, sometimes not. But always they're about meaning, even if that meaning is nonsense. So why is this important? Because it shows that your experience of time in dreams, especially erotic ones, isn't just a reflection of your waking life. It's your brain performing simulations, emotional rehearsals, stress tests. Okay, what if we kissed the barista while floating in zero gravity? What does that tell us about our confidence? And here's the best part. Scientists still debate whether dreams are truly random or if they serve a problem-solving function. Some believe that erotic dreams in particular help regulate sexual frustration or maintain attachment bonds. Others argue it's just emotional noise. But what's clear is this: you don't choose your dreams, but they reflect you. Not in a literal way, but in a layered symbolic kaleidoscope way. And in that kaleidoscope, time twists. You're 17 again. You're 85. You're ancient and brand new all at once. And in those dream seconds, whole decades unfold. Time in erotic dreams isn't linear. It's emotional. It bends and snaps to feeling, not to logic. And somehow that's beautiful. You wake up with your heart pounding. Not always from arousal, sometimes from longing. From remembering something your body knew before you did. That desire isn't just physical. It's emotional architecture. Memory plus hope soaked in sensation. So tonight, when your mind starts blending memories and movie scenes, don't fight the weirdness. Let it play. Let the emotional limbs of your past and future tangle up. Let time twist itself into ribbons. Because sometimes in the chaos of the dream, you understand something deeper than logic could ever explain. Even if it involves your high school math teacher wearing a toga, just go with it. You stir barely. There's a twitch in your fingers, a muscle sigh in your thigh, a half-breath caught in your chest. Somewhere not far from waking, you remember a sound, a moan. Was it yours? It fades, just like the dream, but your body still hums from it. Because here's something we haven't talked about yet. Sometimes these dreams don't just happen to you. They involve you. Your voice, your breath, your body. You've heard of sleepwalking. Right now, meet its awkward cousin, sleep moaning. Let's step into it gently with your major scientific fact. During REM sleep, the body typically undergoes something called REM atonia, a kind of muscle paralysis that prevents you from physically acting out your dreams. But this paralysis isn't total. Small muscle groups like those controlling facial expression, vocal cords, or even the pelvis can still move. That's why some people mumble, grind their teeth, thrust their hips, or moan. Yep. In a quiet room at 3:14 a.m., someone might be whispering, "Oh God," into a pillow without ever knowing it. And depending on who you ask, it's either hilariously embarrassing or just plain confusing. Here's your odd fact of the night. A rare condition known as sexsomnia causes people to engage in sexual behaviors like touching, vocalizing, or even initiating sex while fully asleep with no memory of it. It's a real sleep disorder, and yes, it's been used as a legal defense in court cases. Talk about awkward evidence. But even without clinical condition, many people have these tiny dream outbursts. A sigh, a groan, a hand sliding down a blanket. And you might never remember them. But your partner might. Or your dog. Sorry, Bruno. And that brings us to a quieter, stranger realization. Your body doesn't just experience time in dreams, it leaks time. A memory your brain won't record might still leave evidence on the sheets on your breath and your flushed skin. Dreams don't always stay inside, which raises the question, are dreams private? You think of them that way, but if your body acts them out, in small, subtle biological ways, isn't that time crossing over? Isn't that the imagined bleeding into the real? And here's the philosophical juice. Scientists still debate whether dreams are truly confined to the mind. Some argue dreams can influence physiology. To a degree we underestimate, including hormone shifts, heart rate spikes, and even micro-movements. Others wonder if dreams leave lasting neural imprints, shaping waking behavior far more than we think. You shift beneath your blanket. Maybe you've moaned in your sleep. Maybe you've flushed red before opening your eyes. Maybe you've cried in the dark, dreaming of something you never told anyone about. That's your body holding on to a moment your mind forgot. That's your time stretching beyond memory. And in a way that's more intimate than any dream could be felt. Because it's real, not in a cinematic sense, but in a heartbeat, a muscle twitch, a whispered name no one heard. You breathe deeply now, finally sinking into that heavy kind of drowsy, where even your bones feel soft. There's nothing to do, nothing to figure out. You've already done the dreaming. Now your body is filing it away. And whatever leaked out, it's just proof that you're alive, that you're warm and wired with stories, even the ones you never remember. So if your partner ever tells you you moaned last night or gasped or said something strange, don't panic. Just smile, because maybe your body was rehearsing joy. And that's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's just time. Exhaling. You wake up, sort of. That fragile, in-between state where your eyes are closed but your mind is buzzing like a half-plugged lamp. A scene lingers. It's not quite erotic, not quite romantic. But it was something. Your chest is tight, your breath shallow, your thighs sore in that oddly satisfying way. And the story, it's gone. Except for one detail, you know you weren't alone, even though you were. Welcome to the post-dream ache. And no, it's not just about sex. It's about intimacy. Major scientific fact: dreams involving physical connection, even without explicit sexual content, can activate similar areas in the brain associated with real-life emotional bonding. Oxytocin, the so-called love hormone, surges during both physical affection and REM sleep, creating sensations of closeness, connection, and longing. In other words, your brain isn't just simulating desire, it's simulating attachment. That's why a dream kiss can leave your lips tingling. Why a stranger's arms in a dream can make you feel safer than your real bed ever has. And why waking up alone sometimes hurts more after those dreams. You didn't just dream of touch, you felt held. And here's your odd fact. In dream surveys, many people report feeling deep love for characters they've never met before and will never dream of again. These dream people don't exist, but the emotions they trigger are real, and they sometimes stay with the dreamer for years. It's like emotional déjà vu, like you lost someone you never knew. So what is that A glitch or a message? Well, scientists still debate whether dream characters are projections of your unconscious desires or fragments of memories stitched together by your brain. Some theories suggest these figures serve as mirrors reflecting something you are trying to process emotionally, physically, or even spiritually. And in the case of sensual dreams, those characters may represent more than just someone hot. They might be placeholders for your craving to be seen, to be wanted, to be safe. Even if it's just for one dream-length moment, you breathe in slow and warm, remembering that one smile from a face you can't recall. And maybe you wonder, was it someone you miss, someone you hope for, or just the universe giving you comfort in the shape of a stranger? It doesn't really matter, because the feeling remains, and feelings are time's breadcrumbs. They lead you forward not just in seconds or minutes, but in meaning. You're not measuring time by clocks anymore. You're measuring it by ache, by warmth, by that bittersweet whisper of something almost real. You lie back now, the sheets cool, the room still. There's no trace of the dream, but your body remembers. Your chest feels full, not from breath, from memory. So maybe tonight's story wasn't about the mechanics of wet dreams. Maybe it was about why they matter. Because in a world where everything demands your logic, your schedule, your efficiency, sleep gives you a secret rebellion. It gives you yearning, nonsense, blush-worthy nonsense, and deep, raw, unspeakable connection. Even if no one was really there, even if you'll never dream them again, even if the only person who remembers is the part of you that doesn't speak in words. So let it ache, let it linger. That's what time does when it wants you to remember something. even if it's just the feeling of being wanted. Tonight you find yourself chasing something. It's slippery like a name on the tip of your tongue, or that half-finished dream where you were almost kissing someone, but then, boom, alarm clock. You rub your eyes. It's funny, right? You spend hours sleeping, but you barely remember 5 minutes of it. And yet, your body remembers everything, even the parts your brain can't or won't hold on to. Let's talk about that. Major scientific fact. Most dreams, especially those from REM sleep, are forgotten within minutes of waking. The prefrontal cortex, your rational memory manager, is largely offline during dreaming. So even intense, emotionally rich dreams often leave no lasting trace unless you wake up during them. In other words, your dream brain is a terrible archivist. But your body keeps receipts. You may not remember the dream where your hands grazed someone's waist or the one where your skin buzzed from a kiss that never landed, but your pulse quickened. Your breathing shifted. You woke up flushed. And that's a kind of memory too. Which brings us to the odd fact, some people have experienced sleep-induced orgasms, full physiological release without a single image, sound, or emotion they can recall. No dream, no context, just the end result. Imagine waking up after a ghostly kiss. It's like your body snuck off to write its own story and left you out of the plot. But if your conscious mind wasn't involved, was it still you? That's the paradox. You didn't choose that dream. You didn't decide to respond to it. But it happened inside you. So what part of you did choose? And that's where it gets wild. Scientists still debate whether our sense of self persists during dreams. Are you you in your dreams, or a version constructed by fragments of desire, memory, and emotion? Think of it this way: when you're awake, your sense of time is built by the rhythm of tasks, the pressure of to-do lists, and the ticking clock. But in dreams, time is made by feeling. You don't remember the sequence, you remember the impact. You remember the ache, the smile, the warmth spreading through your belly like candlelight. And you wake up not knowing the details, just knowing something happened. So what does that mean for your waking self? Maybe it means your body is a time machine of its own. It doesn't record minutes. It records moments. Moments of tension, of surrender, of pleasure and longing, and shadowy half-kisses that vanish with the dawn. And sometimes those moments echo into your day. A strange softness, a blush you can't explain, a vague grief like you lost something unnamed. But here's the gift: you don't have to remember the dream for it to be real. You felt it, and that's enough. So tonight, if you wake up confused, if your sheets tell a story your brain can't access, don't panic. You just dreamed in a language without words, and your body, it understood perfectly. Time didn't move forward like a straight line. It curled around you like steam, like music, like breath. You didn't miss anything. You were there, even if you can't remember it. And maybe that's the most intimate kind of memory there is. There's a part of you that wants to explain it. You lie in bed, eyes closed, trying to reconstruct the dream you just woke from. You had been. What dancing, kissing, floating? You're not sure, but you were feeling, and now it's gone. So you chase it mentally, reaching back through the mist. But the more you try, the more it slips away. And here's the twist: maybe that dream was never meant to be remembered. Maybe it was only meant to be felt. Let's take a sharp turn into quantum physics. Major scientific fact incoming. In quantum mechanics, there's a concept called the observer effect. It's the idea that simply observing a quantum system can alter its behavior. A particle isn't in one place or another until it's measured. It exists in a blur of possibilities. So what does this have to do with dreams and desire? And waking up breathless from a memory you can't recall maybe more than we think. Some scientists and philosophers have speculated cautiously that consciousness itself might operate in ways similar to quantum systems. Your brain is, after all, an electrical dynamic probabilistic network. And dreams, they're quantum chaos. You experience possibilities, moments that both are and aren't, lovers that exist and vanish, bodies that feel familiar and strange all at once. Which leads us to the odd fact of the night. In some studies, lucid dreamers, people who become aware they're dreaming, have reported observing dream scenes literally shift or freeze when they focused too hard, like the dream was reacting to their attention. As if the subconscious didn't like being watched. Spooky, right? Scientists still debate whether dreams respond to our awareness in real time, or if lucid dreaming simply gives us the illusion of control over a process that's otherwise automatic. But you felt it. That slippage. That moment when a sensual dream is ruined by realizing, wait, this is a dream. Suddenly the magic dissolves. The chemistry crashes. You're back in bed. Because the spell only works when you don't look too closely. Just like in quantum theory. Try to measure the feeling and it disappears. Try to name the person in your dream and their face turns to smoke. Try to remember the moment of pleasure and it flickers out. So maybe your erotic dreams exist in a state of emotional superposition. They are and they aren't. They happened and they didn't. But your body still reacted. Your breath still quickened. Your muscles still pulsed. That's not fake. That's your own private reality. One you briefly visited. One that dissolved upon contact. And here's the comforting, maybe beautiful part. Not all truths are meant to be recorded. Some are just meant to pass through you. Like lightning. Like poetry. Like that dream where you were almost held, but not quite. And in that moment, time moved forward and paused. It curved, it danced, and it left behind no trace but the one in your chest. So don't worry if the dream made no sense, if the kiss faded, if the body disappeared before the scene finished. That's quantum time. That's emotional time. That's your mind rehearsing a truth it can't put into words. You felt it, and that's all the evidence you'll ever need. The house is silent. No wind, no cars, no clocks ticking too loud. Just you. And the faint heat of the dream still clinging to your skin like the last shimmer of a candle. You don't want to open your eyes. You're afraid it'll break the spell. Because something about that dream felt like closure. Or maybe a question answered in a language your body understood before your brain could catch up. Let's lean into that. Major scientific fact. During REM sleep, the brain consolidates emotional memories. It doesn't just store information. It reprocesses it, files it, and in some cases, softens it. That's why dreams often involve scenarios we haven't thought about in years, exes lost moments, confusing feelings. Your brain isn't messing with you. It's tidying up. It's not uncommon to have an erotic dream about someone long gone, or someone who hurt you, or someone you thought you'd forgotten. That doesn't mean you want them. It means your brain is running an emotional systems update. And sometimes that update ends with a release, a literal one. Here's your odd fact. In Japanese folklore, there's a spirit called a baku that eats dreams, especially nightmares. But some stories say the baku can also consume good dreams if you're not careful. That's why some people hesitate to ask for their help. Because once a dream is eaten, it's gone forever. Kind of like what happens when you wake too fast. Which brings us to the real mystery tonight. Why do some dreams leave marks not physically, but emotionally? You've had dreams you forgot immediately, and others that stayed with you for years, haunting like perfume on old clothes. And some of those dreams, they were intimate, private, unspeakable, even if nothing happened. Scientists still debate why certain dreams become emotionally sticky. Is it the intensity of the neurochemical cocktail dopamine, oxytocin, cortisol? Or is it the dream's symbolic content tapping into something unresolved or deeply personal? There's no clear answer, but you feel it. You've had dreams that reopened old wounds, dreams that gave you closure, dreams that reminded you you're still alive in every sense of the word. And maybe tonight's dream was like that. Maybe it wasn't about sex. Maybe it was about vulnerability, about remembering what it feels like to be seen, to be wanted, to feel warm. You turn your head slightly on the pillow. The dream is mostly gone now, but something remains. A flicker, a mood, a soft echo in your chest. And you realize this isn't about one dream. It's about dreaming, period. It's about that strange doorway between memory and fantasy, between fear and desire, between loss and possibility. It's about how your brain writes love letters to feelings you haven't admitted yet. And sometimes it mails them in the form of touch, even imagined touch. So if you feel a little raw tonight, a little open, that's okay. You've just been somewhere real, even if no map could ever find it again. Because it wasn't a place. It was you. A part of you that's always known how to ache, how to blush, how to glow from the inside out. So don't worry about forgetting the dream. Your body remembers. Your breath remembers. And that warmth on your skin, that's not just a memory. That's a message. You're still here, still soft, still whole, still open to being touched by time. Even in your sleep. The night is deep now. The kind of silence where even the refrigerator holds its breath. And your body finally lets go. No clenching, no questioning, just rest. And maybe something more. Because here at this quiet hour, your brain does its weirdest, most wondrous work. And yes, that includes dreaming about sex with your barista. But also, that includes healing. Let's get gently nerdy. Major scientific fact. REM sleep plays a crucial role in emotional regulation. It's during these periods that your brain sorts through the mess of daily life, prunes unnecessary neural connections, and strengthens the ones tied to important feelings, especially feelings tied to pleasure, bonding, and safety. So those steamy dreams, they're not just your subconscious being cheeky. They might be how your mind reminds you what it means to feel close to someone, or to want, or to trust. Even if in the dream that someone was Ryan Gosling riding a dinosaur in your childhood living room. Symbolism, baby. And here's your odd fact. In some small studies, people deprived of REM sleep report a drop not only in mood and memory, but also in libido. Their bodies keep going, but their desire flattens. It's like their dream world stopped watering their emotional garden. Which brings us to something deeper than just dreams. What if your wet dreams aren't about sex? Not really. What if they're your brain's way of keeping you human? Of reminding you in a world of schedules and emails and traffic lights that your body is still wild, still wired for pleasure, still soft where it matters. Scientists still debate whether erotic dreams serve a direct evolutionary function or if they're simply byproducts of your emotional and hormonal landscape. But more and more research suggests they're tied to psychological well-being, like your brain giving you emotional vitamins while you sleep. And sometimes those vitamins come wrapped in sweat and velvet and laughter and sighs. You shift in bed now, maybe without realizing it. Your body has already done its part. Tension has been released. Memories sorted. Needs acknowledged. And that flicker of pleasure, that echo of a touch, it wasn't wasted. It was your mind checking in. Hey, I still remember what you need. And that's powerful. Because desire is more than just a spark. It's a compass. It points to what makes you feel alive, what lights you up, what connects you to others, even if only for a dream-long minute. And sometimes the dream is messy, embarrassing, laughable, but it's real. Not because it happened, but because it mattered. It reminded you that inside your responsible, overthinking, sleep-deprived self, there's a part of you still hungry, still blushing, still aching to feel something. And that ache, that's not a flaw. That's proof you're still here. So tonight, as you drift into whatever strange, warm nonsense your next REM cycle brings, don't overanalyze it. Don't try to catch it. Just let it move through you. Like moonlight. Like steam. Like the part of you that knows how to love without words. It's almost morning. The dark is fading at the edges, and somewhere outside your window, a bird is thinking about singing. And you're hovering between sleep and wakefulness. There's a weight in your limbs, pleasant grounded, like your body has finally said, "Okay, I trust you now." And maybe that's the whole point. Because here at the end of all this swirling dream stuff, this talk of REM cycles and ghostly touches, something clearer is rising. Maybe wet dreams aren't weird, or shameful, or random. Maybe they're intimate postcards from the deepest parts of you. Let's bring this one home with a final major scientific fact. Nocturnal emissions, commonly known as wet dreams, are completely natural and occur in people of all genders. They're more common during hormonal peaks, but they can happen at any age and aren't necessarily tied to arousal or sexual content in dreams. Sometimes the body simply says, "It's time." It's like a release valve. Biological, automatic, deeply human, and still kind of poetic. Because even if the dream was strange, like hugging your crush while falling into a pit of spaghetti, it meant something. Even if it was just your brain regulating tension, or grief, or desire. Here's your odd fact. In ancient Greece, it was believed that erotic dreams were messages from the gods, sometimes warnings, sometimes blessings. Priests and priestesses at healing temples would even interpret these dreams as signs of emotional or spiritual imbalance. So yeah, maybe your brain isn't broken. Maybe it's divine. And maybe, just maybe, that thing your body did last night, it was sacred. And yet scientists still debate the purpose of these dreams. Are they evolutionary leftovers, hormonal recalibrations, emotional metaphors? No one knows for sure. The data is real, but the meaning, that's still slippery. But let's be honest, meaning has always been slippery, especially when it's wrapped in velvet and fog and a whisper of breath across your ear. So here's what you do know: your dreams are yours. Their timelines make no sense, but they always land where they need to. They don't follow clocks. They follow feelings. They stretch moments, condense years. They blend shame with humor, tenderness with absurdity. And sometimes they offer release. Literal, physical, warm release. the kind you don't talk about at brunch. But here, it's safe. You're safe. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't fail because you woke up sticky. You didn't betray anyone or reveal too much or say something you shouldn't have. You just dreamed. And dreaming is the body's way of keeping its grip on wonder, on memory, on need. So as dawn reaches under your curtains and you blink at the soft, familiar shape of your room, take a moment. Feel the quiet. Let the ghost of that dream curl into your ribs like a cat settling in, not needing to be seen, just wanting to be felt. Because maybe the point isn't remembering every detail. Maybe it's just knowing that part of you was touched, even in sleep, even in secret. And maybe that's enough, so you're barely awake now. The light outside has changed, no longer the hush of midnight, but the pale shimmer of a world restarting. Your breath is slow. The blankets are heavy. Your mind a pond with the last ripples of a vanishing stone. Whatever your dream was, whatever stirred, ached, moaned, or whispered, it's fading. But not lost. Not really. Because you feel different. Even if you can't name why. Here at the very edge of sleep, the body quiets, but the truth lingers. So let's breathe together one last time and talk about what all of this means. Major scientific fact: sleep isn't just a maintenance cycle, it's a rewiring session. Every night your brain strengthens synaptic connections that matter and weakens the ones that don't. But here's the twist: matter isn't determined by logic. It's determined by emotion. The dreams that hit hardest, that make you laugh, cry, sweat, or release, they stick. They get folded into the story of who you are. So if you're wondering why you keep dreaming about that person, or that moment, or that feeling, that's your brain saying this means something, even if it's irrational, even if you don't want it to, even if it makes you blush when you pour your morning coffee. Here's your odd fact: there's a psychological term called dream residue, the leftover emotions from a dream that influence your waking mood. It's why a weird, sexy, or emotional dream can haunt you all day, coloring how you think, walk, or even text your ex. Dreams don't just end. They leak. And scientists still debate whether dreams exist primarily to protect mental health, practice hypothetical situations, or simply entertain the restless brain. Some even suggest dreams serve no purpose at all, that they're a chaotic side effect of other biological processes. But you know better. Because it felt real. Maybe not logically, but physically, emotionally. And sometimes that's the only kind of reality that matters. So let's do this. Let's forgive our bodies for being awkward sometimes. Let's stop being ashamed of the strange places our minds wander in the dark. Let's honor the dream kisses, the phantom hands, the moments we woke up flushed and confused. Because those are not mistakes. They're you learning how to want, how to feel, how to be touched without fear. You don't have to tell anyone what you dreamed last night, but you also don't have to hide from it. You can just smile to yourself, softly, sleepily, like someone who knows their body is wise, because it is. It's not just a machine, it's a translator, a lighthouse, a vault of every secret you're still learning how to unlock. And if some of those secrets come wrapped in silk and moans and shadows, so be it. That's time moving through you. That's your story writing itself while you rest. And now you can let go. Let the dream close behind you. No guilt, no panic, no need to chase the meaning. You already lived it. And that is enough. You're still here. Eyes fluttering beneath closed lids, body soft with the weight of rest. And somewhere deep within, the echo of a dream still hums low, warm, and unbothered. Tonight we explored the mysteries of desire beneath the skin of sleep. We asked where wet dreams come from, not just biologically, but emotionally. We walked through the messy corridors of memory fantasy and forgotten kisses. We looked at how your brain whispers in symbols and how your body answers in blushes and sighs. We talked about oxytocin and REM cycles, but also about heartbreak, about laughter in strange places, about how dreams can feel like home even when they're made of nonsense. You learned that sometimes your most intimate moments happen when you're barely aware, that your body doesn't always wait for permission to feel, and that's okay. More than okay, it's human. Because the truth is, the line between waking and dreaming isn't a line at all. It's a tide. And some nights, it brings you things you didn't know you needed. Closure, curiosity, a little warmth in the cold. So take this quiet moment now and let it settle into your breath. Let it smooth the worry lines on your forehead. Let it remind you that even in the weird, slippery world of sleep, you are still real, still whole, still worthy of touch even if it comes in dreams. Thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for listening. Now close your eyes, soften your shoulders, and trust the tide to carry you gently wherever it needs to go. End of script. Good night.